Well, hello. Here I am in Jubilee Park, or Silver Jubilee Park actually, in, well, it's like Kingsbury or Hendon or somewhere like that, North London anyway. And I thought I would sit here underneath this tree to talk about Brexit, because I have here a bunch of leaflets, a few anyway, and I'm going to go through them and give my reactions basically, because, well, the EU parliamentary referendum, or vote, not referendum, election is going to take place Thursday, and it's, what is it now, Sunday, so I thought I'd better make up my mind. Who am I going to vote for? It's actually not straightforward, but because I'll need two hands to handle the leaflet, I'm just going to plonk the camera down on the ground and point it in some random direction and hope for the best. How's that? I'll move it about a bit occasionally. But the first thing to note, though, is that there has been a poll done by YouGov, and I'll put a chart up on the screen. I suppose you could look at my phone, but I don't think you'll see it very well, so I'll stick a chart up on the screen giving people's voting intentions. They surveyed 7,000 British adults between the 12th and 16th of May. So it's a rough idea. And basically, it's quite shocking. The Brexit Party, which didn't even exist about a month ago, is going to take 35% of the vote. It's the lead party. The Lib Dems are second with 16%. They're a sort of centrist pro-Europe party. Labour is split on whether it's in favour of staying in the EU or not. They're a third on 15%. The Greens are a pro-EU party and pro-environmentalist party, but only getting 10%. The Conservatives, the current government, are sort of a pseudo right-wing party that were against Brexit at the time of the referendum, but are trying to implement it, or claim they are split, and they're on 9%. Then we have some minor parties. Change UK, a pro-Remain party, on 5%. UKIP, the original Brexit party, as it were, are only on 3% of the vote. Nobody gives them any credibility. And there's some other parties on a total of 7% between them. So really it looks like the problem is that for people who want Brexit, most of them are going to vote for the Brexit Party. But for people who want to remain, their vote is split between the Lib Dems, Labour and the Greens, and I suppose Change UK. So basically the Brexit Party is almost certain to win the MEP or the European elections. It doesn't mean they're in the majority. I think if a fresh Brexit referendum were held, I think latest polls indicate that Remain would win by about 52% to 48%. So it's not that clear cut. And of course there would be a campaign first for people to change people's minds, so it could go either way if there is a referendum held again. So there you go. Some of the parties say there should be, but originally they were all saying no, there shouldn't be. We've had our referendum, that's it. But anyway, it's just chaos basically. There's some interesting other stats as well, like, for example, people who voted Conservative and who voted Leave in the referendum, 78% of them are actually going to vote for the Brexit Party now. So it's like a huge chunk of Conservative voters have switched to Brexit. Labour Leave voters are 47% are going to vote for the Brexit Party. Of the Remain voters, 42% of the Conservative Remain voters are still going to vote Conservative, but 23% of them have decided to vote Lib Dem. And 41% altogether are going to vote for other Remain parties. For Labour voters who voted Remain, only a few are going to vote for the Brexit Party, which makes sense. Actually, strangely enough, of the Conservative Remain voters, 12% are actually going to vote for the Brexit Party. For Labour, it's more like 2 or 3% by the looks of it. 37% of Labour Remain voters are going to vote Labour. And 47 plus 8, 55% of Labour Remain voters are going to vote for other parties. Change UK, Green and the Lib Dems. So the polling is showing that Britain is split, the parties are split. So what about the leaflets? What about Labour? There we are. What have we got? I haven't really looked at them. I want to have a rummage through and see what they say. Over there, by the way, is Wembley Stadium, in case you can see it. Can you stay upright? I don't think it can. Oh, there we go. Labour will bring our country together, says Jeremy Corbyn. Theresa May and the Tories are in chaos and our country is in crisis. Well, Labour is in chaos as well, actually. Whether you voted Leave or Remain, this election is your chance to vote Labour and tell the Tories you are fed up with their divisive austerity policies and incompetent government. I am fed up with their divisive austerity policies and incompetent government. But I have to say, I don't think Labour will be any different. So let's see what's inside the leaflet. It says, a better deal with Europe. The Tories' chaotic handling of Brexit has left our country in crisis. UK jobs and industry are at risk. Labour would keep a close relationship with the EU that protects workers' rights and environmental standards. If we can't get changes to their bad deal or a general election, Labour backs the option of a public vote. The Tories' chaotic handling of Brexit hasn't really left the country in crisis. We're not in crisis yet until we actually leave. Then it'll be a big crisis, because it's going to be economic disaster, I'm sure. I'm roughly in favour of Brexit, still, but not for economic reasons. For political reasons, really. I don't like the idea that these MEPs that we're voting for basically have no legislative power. They can't introduce legislation, they can't really do anything much. They can hold things up a bit, that's about it. The EU is being run by unelected bureaucrats and a council of ministers who notionally are elected by us, but they're sent by their nominees sent by the parties, by the governments of the various countries. But in practice they just do what their corporate bosses want them to do. That's not really the way the world is going at the moment. Globalism is doomed, I think. It may win out briefly and then it'll die. Labour will keep a close relationship with the EU. Of course they were in favour of Remain in the old days, like before the referendum. They will invest in our economy. The camera just went off. What's going on? I'm a bit worried about that. Has it not been recording me? Let's try it again. Stay upright, camera. me put it where I can see it, because it's dodgy if it's going to turn off. There we go. Right. Nearly a decade of reckless and unnecessary cuts have devastated our communities. Well, true enough. Labour will rebuild the economy for the many, not the few. Regional development banks. They're good, fine. Investment in local services. The Tories have recklessly savaged local communities through 9 years of unnecessary cuts. We'll invest again. They'll spend our taxes again. Labour will put 10,000 bobbies back on the beat, get class sizes down and give the NHS the money, doctors and nurses it needs. They always press the NHS button, Labour, because they know people love the NHS and it's a vote winner, they think. But I'm sick of it, to be honest. I'm in favour of the NHS, but I'm sick of them pressing the NHS button all the time. For God's sake. It's in the news all the time. The NHS has been in crisis ever since it was set up. 50 years ago or more. 70 years ago. Our country has never been more unequal. Labour will make this country a fair one where everyone gets a share of the rewards. So again, higher taxes for people who work and free money for people who don't work. I favour a safety net, but last time Labour was in, they were taking it too far. There were scoundrels all over the place. Families basically paid to have babies and not work, given great big houses that I could never ever afford, even though I have a job. It just doesn't feel right. And yet, well, I don't know. There needs to be a cap on benefits, I think. Labour will invest in new affordable homes to rent and buy, invest in elderly care and make Britain a fairer, more equal society. Affordable homes have been a joke. They were introduced a long time ago, but nobody defined what affordable meant. And I looked it up on government websites and it just, basically you went around in circles. Affordable means affordable. They don't specify who buy or how much money you need. And what it meant in practice was the prices were about 80% of market price, which is not affordable. In London, a house is £600,000 easily, and since the average wage is something like 25,000, you're not going to get one, you know. So anyway, that's Labour. There are some things that are good in their policies. I don't really find it persuasive. It's too brief, but they know they're not going to win anyway. Next, the Green Party. That woman on the front is their MEP, oh no, their MP, their candidate in the British Parliament. Let's look over at Wembley now for a bit, shall we? They want to, obviously they're green, they're in favour of protecting the environment. They want us to stay in the EU, take bold climate action and change politics for good. I don't know how they'll do that. Oh, and they have 3 Green MEPs. They show a picture of them here. And they're proudly European, which is perhaps not good for me because I'm still pro-Brexit for political reasons. Green Party MP Caroline Lucas was one of the founders of the People's Vote movement, so they want to forget about the original referendum and have another one. If it was a second referendum saying, what kind of Brexit do you want? Because Brexit is already been voted for, that would be okay. But if it's to say, shall we go in, if it's asking basically the same question again, leave or stay, that's not acceptable to me. They celebrate and defend the right to free movement and have constantly championed the rights of EU citizens in the UK and UK citizens in the EU. Vote Green to remain and change Europe. Vote Green to remain and change Europe. Now, that was one of the reasons that I voted Brexit, because Britain has been in Europe for something like 40 years, and the EU has not changed. to become more democratic. I seem to recall they introduced a parliament and stuff, but the MEPs have no legislative power. Then they brought the two treaties, the Lisbon Treaty, and before that the place beginning with M, where was it? I forget. Not Munich, somewhere in Germany anyway, treaty that John Major was all very keen on back in the day. Maastricht, that was it, without telling us, not in Germany is it? Anyway, not telling us really what it was all about, but it was about making a federal Europe. So Europe has changed, but in the wrong direction, away from democracy and towards corporate rule. So towards the rich and powerful telling everybody else what to do. So they've had their chance to change Europe. All the parties have, and they have not done it. Action on climate change. The movement for climate justice has never been stronger, and Greens are leading it across the continent. Well, actually, I'm not sure about that, but Extinction Rebellion and Greta Thunberg are leading it across the continent. We are facing a climate emergency. We need action to protect our children's future. Vote Green for bold climate action. Well, yes, I'm in favour of bold climate action. I don't know whether it is humans causing climate change or whether it's natural or a combination of the two. I guess the latter. But I see no reason why we shouldn't geoengineer the environment to suit ourselves deliberately, whether it's us causing the current problems or not. If the temperature does go up a lot, agricultural land will reduce. At least our current crops will not grow on much of it, and the carrying capacity of the earth for humans will reduce. Is estimated to as little as 1.5 billion humans, and considering our population is getting on for 8 billion now, that's a big worry, because it will happen within like 10 to 20 years, if it's going to happen like that. So yeah, we should interfere in the climate, but deliberately. If you look back at the long term, the Holocene era, it's quite clear the climate has gone, temperatures have gone up and down by, well, plus or minus a few degrees in either direction constantly. And we've had like the medieval warm period, the Little Ice Age, we had the Minoan warm period, which was warmer than it is now. And these were natural variations. The Minoan one, I think, may even have been worldwide. But then the human population was low, and it would not have caused as much mass starvation as it would now. People also argue that, I suppose this is a subject for another video, that carbon dioxide levels were much, much higher in the far distant past, like the Cretaceous period. You had several thousand parts per million, whereas now it's 416 parts per million. But they don't mention that the sun was cooler then. It's been warming up. Our sun is a main sequence G-class star. I think it's G-class, and they get warmer as they age. So our sun is something like 20% warmer than it was then, and that's why you could have a lot more carbon dioxide then without the Earth overheating. Anyway, maybe that's a subject for another video, whether climate change is human induced and what we can do about it, or what. It's too complicated though. For my part, as I say, we should just interfere, but deliberately. Vote for real change. Our political system is broken. It has failed to fix the inequality and insecurity that fueled the Brexit vote. Correct. We must listen to the reasons people voted to leave and heal divisions. We must end the current political chaos. Vote Green for real change. They don't specify really what change they want to implement. I know in the old days their policy was to ban private property altogether. Everything would be state-owned. They were a communist party essentially. They're not saying that at the moment, so I don't know what they are, but they must listen to the reasons people voted to leave and heal divisions. But they still want to leave. So they're not open to changing their minds. It's not good enough. They should say, if they're going to listen, then they should not have a prejudged solution, in my view. But yes, as a former communist type of party, you would expect them to be in favour of joining or staying in the EU, because the EU is a kind of a pseudo-communistic system. With it's set up surprisingly similarly to the Soviet Union in many ways. Then we have Change UK. Here is their wonderful leaflet. Hooray! But Change UK are in favour of Britain staying in the EU. Brexit is a mess and politics is broken. Let's change it. We've come together from all parties to form Change UK. While Labour and Conservatives have left the centre ground, our candidates represent mainstream Britain. We believe the only way out of the Brexit crisis is a people's vote, and we back remaining in the EU. So they want to vote and they want to remain in the EU. So again, it's not going to be a real vote, is it? Because they're backing one outcome. That's why hardly anybody's going to vote for them, perhaps. So Change UK MEPs will reform EU rules to support business, create jobs and protect workers' rights. Prioritise rigorous climate change targets, defend the free movement of people, fight for a highly skilled NHS with access to the best medicines and research as a member of the EU. Well, let's look at that. Reform EU rules to support business. They do support business, but big business. Small business is crushed by EU regulations, and big business supports regulations because they can afford to keep up with them, whereas small companies can't afford to change their machinery every time the EU decides to change some regulation. And change their bottle sizes and change their labelling. This is all too expensive for small businesses. The EU is just a conspiracy to help corporates take over the entire marketplace. And they don't want to create jobs. Obviously the corporates are going to robotise everything. And they're not going to protect workers' rights, because that's not what corporations do. Quite the opposite. They're going to prioritise rigorous climate change targets. Well, good. Defend the free movement of people. A lot of people who voted Brexit were against the free movement of people because too many people were coming into this country and others in the EU. I would say people didn't mind people coming from EU countries much, but people were very upset with the large numbers of Muslims coming in from EU countries. They get their asylum in the EU, then come here because the rules were better here. And a lot of people found that rather difficult to deal with. I personally am not that bothered. It doesn't really matter to me. I think if too many people come in, though, it will risk changing the culture for the worse. Because when you look at some Islamic countries, they're just... There's no real respect for women's rights and things like that, for example. And it's a very strict religion, which I don't favour. But there you go. But I know lots of Muslims, they're fine people. And a lot of them, I think, are coming here to get away from the crazies in their own countries, to be honest. But I do think that immigration should be controlled in the sense that a country should decide whether a person is of good character, at least, before letting them in. But on the other hand, the free movement of people is very important, because I would like to go and live in a warm country at some point. Maybe, I probably won't. I'll probably end up living on the south coast in England somewhere, but I at least want the right to go, you know, live in Italy or the south of France, or, you know, Croatia or somewhere nice, I don't know. Spain even, I don't know about that. Portugal, you know. So I want free movement for me, so it's got to be rare for other people too. Some of them. But they're not going to win anyway, so it's kind of irrelevant. Next, UK Independence Party. Vote UKIP, vote to leave. 17.4 million of you voted to leave the EU. Conservative, Labour, Lib Dem, Green and SNP MPs betrayed you. If you want to leave the EU, vote UKIP. UKIP MEPs will fight for Brexit. So they have absolutely nothing to say except that they are in favour of Brexit. They're not going to say what they're going to do. How strange. So, yeah. So we have Brexit then. What are their policies then? Nothing. No policies. So, yeah, it's kind of Hobson's choice. I don't have a Conservative leaflet. I realise they're irrelevant anyway, but no Conservatives have made their presence known around here, or around my place either. So... Well, that's that, I guess. That's the vlog for today. I don't know what else to say. I don't know who to vote for. I mean, I guess I'll vote for the Brexit Party because they're going to get all the votes anyway. I would otherwise maybe vote for the Greens because I favour strong climate action, but they're being coy about what their other policies are. It's very interesting to see that Labour and the Conservatives are so low in the polls. If this was reflected in a national election, that would be very interesting. But for a European election, it's not that interesting. It's just sending a message to them that they're an irrelevance when it comes to Brexit. So there you go, and I'm hoping the recording went okay because the camera turned itself off. These leaflets away, hold on. Alright, I might as well just walk down the hill, shall I? And we can have a look at the scenery a bit. I don't know what these bits have been ploughed up for. Are they planting bulbs or something? I don't know. It's very strange. Oops, it's hard to walk on this stuff. There's lots of green space in London. Something like 47% of it, depending on how you count it. Buttercups. Some poor children there being forced to play football in their spare time. I don't know. Maybe they like it. Some allotment space over there. People can grow vegetables and stuff. Outside their gardens. Or for people who don't have gardens. Or who just prefer to grow the vegetables somewhere else. Most people don't use their gardens for vegetables. I suppose you might have fruit trees, but not really vegetables. In your garden, that is. I'm thinking of turning left somewhere. I did see a footpath through. I'm just wondering if there's another one down here somewhere. Because Silver Jubilee Park basically ends down there. But there's more green space to the left, which is the green space around Brent Park Reservoir. I think it's a football field behind that hedge. Here we go, a path. If you're still watching, Let me know what you make of this style of vlogging. Is it better than sitting in my room in front of a green wall? It's a kind of combination, isn't it, of vlogging and sightseeing at the same time. If you've got any suggestions, let me know. How could I improve it? I'm not sure I will implement any suggestions, but it's interesting to hear, because I might. Some may not work for my kit or setup or habits or preferences, but you know, ideas are always worth hearing. Straight ahead is West Hendon. Well, it's a nursery school now. It was a film studio. All that white patch with the big windows in it was all boarded up, and it was painted black on the inside because that was actually used as the studio for filming. But now I can see they've opened it up. Before it was a film studio, it was I think it was a basketball court. Actually, no, the white building is a bowls club at the moment, because I can see the space next to it, which was the film studio, is still boarded up. You might not be able to see it on this tiny picture, but there we go. There was talk of the bowls club being closed at one point, but it seems to be still there. Cricket pitch, I think, being protected. Sometimes after heavy rain, this area where I'm walking now gets flooded. I've seen it up to level high enough to cover that seat. Believe it or not. So what's this? OMG, Old Master Gym, Martial Arts Health and Fitness Centre. Goodness me. Behind that door used to be a sound studio where we would go and do our voiceovers in a sound booth. Now it's a Martial Arts Health and Fitness Centre, so there you go. Well, I've got to go to the supermarket, do my weekly shopping. So I'll see you on the vlog. Bye for now.